I don't know why that does that. Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, I could connect the dot, a mind blow moment, a mushroom cloud moment, a new author to read, a new book to explore. Please consider supporting my work. All the links of how you could do that is in the description box below this video. And many blessings to everybody that got affected by the enormous tornado outbreak. I was affected by that. I was ready to do, I was reading a Wasp Bay and my internet cut off. And then I got the tornado sirens. And then the NOAA weather radio started flashing and doing its thing. Not fun. I lost power, I lost internet, and it was really wonky the last few days. So we're going to have another one of those fun events happen on Tuesday in my area. So all of those that were involved in those tornadoes in, I guess, 9 states, my prayers are with you if you are affected. Please keep strong. Please, everybody send prayers to those people that got hit and that lost their lives. We don't like to see those things. So everything is now back up and running as normal for now. We'll see what happens. I do not have a generator. I'm still moving in. And it will be okay. Urantia, paper 45, the local system administration. Before I start, for our newcomers, this is a very long book. I suggest you go to the playlist, look back to the first Urantia reading. We're up to paper 45. We're on page 509. And that's just yeah, and these are paper thin. Yeah, and I will have to redo the Owaspe video. I do apologize for not having that out. Again, I was cut off thanks to the storm. I was halfway through. But not to repeat, I'm going to do Urantia, then I'll do Owaspe again. So I do apologize. And once again, I am dyslexic. My mind sometimes sees things that are not necessarily there. I also cross words up, mispronunciations, because I have from here to here, this falls down. They're loose. I have to find a dentist to pluck my teeth out. I don't know if I can afford that right now. It's very pricey. So in the meantime, projecting, mispronunciations, just things just to keep in mind, just to kind of ignore. And I thank you for watching and coming to my channel. The administrative center of Satania consists of a cluster of architectural spheres, 57 in number. Jerusalem itself, the 7th major satellites, and the 49 sub-satellites. Jerusalem, the system capital, is almost 100 times the size of Urantia. It's good to know. Although its gravity is a trifle less. Jerusalem's major satellites are the 7 transition worlds, each of which is about 10 times as large as Urantia, while the 7 sub-satellites of these transition spheres are just about the size of Urantia. The 7 mansion worlds are the 7 sub-satellites of transition world number 1. The entire system of 57 architectural worlds is independently lighted, heated, watered, and energized by the coordination of the Satania Power Center and the master physical controllers in accordance with the established technique of the physical organization and arrangement of these specially created spheres. They are also physically cared for and otherwise maintained by the native Spangagia. Transitional cultural worlds. The 7 major worlds swinging around Jerusalem are generally known as the transitional cultural spheres. Their rulers are designated from time to time by the Jerusalem Supreme Executive Council. These spheres are numbered and named as follows. The Finaliter world. This is the headquarters of the Finaliter Corps of the local system and is surrounded by the receiving worlds, the 7 mansion worlds dedicated so fully to the scheme of mortal ascension. The Finaliter world is assembled to the inhabitants of all 7 mansion worlds. Transport seraphim carrying ascended personalities back and forth on these pilgrimage is, which are designed to cultivate their faith in the ultimate destiny of transition mortals. Although the finaliters and their structures are not ordinarily perceived to Urantia vision, you will be more than thrilled from time to time when the energy transformers and the Urantia power supervisors enable you momentarily to glimpse these high spirit personalities who have actually completed the paradise ascension and who have returned to the very worlds where you are beginning this long journey, as the pledge of assurance that you may and can complete this stupendous undertaking. All mansion world sojourners go to the Finaliter sphere at least once a year for these assemblies of Finaliter visualization. Paper thin and stuck. Number 2, the Urantia world. This planet is the headquarters of the supervisors of Urantia life and is surrounded by the 7 spheres whereon the Urantia chiefs train their associates and helpers, both Urantia beings and ascended mortals. In passing through the 7 mansion worlds, you will also progress through these cultural and social spheres of increasing Urantia contact. When you are advanced from the 1st to the 2nd mansion world, you will become more eligible for a visitor's permit to transitional headquarters number 2, the Urantia world, and so on. And when present on any one of these 6 cultural spheres, you may, on invitation, become a visitor and observer on any of the 7 surrounding worlds and associated group activities. Number 3, the angelic world. This is the headquarters of the seraphic hosts engaged in system activities and is surrounded by 7 worlds of angelic training and instruction. These are the seraphic social spheres. Number 4, the super angel world. The sphere is the Satania home of the brilliant evening stars and a vast concourse of coordinate and near coordinate beings. The 7 satellites of this world are assigned to the 7 major groups of this unnamed celestial beings. Number 5, the world of the sons, SONs. This planet is the headquarters of the divine sons of all orders, including the creature trinitized sons. The surrounding 7 worlds are devoted to certain individual groupings of these divinely related sons. Number 6, the world of the spirit. This sphere serves as the system rendezvous of the high personalities of the infinite spirit. Its 7 surrounding satellites are assigned to individual groups of these diverse orders. But on transition world number 6, there is no representation of the spirit, neither is such a presence to be observed on the system capitals. The divine minister of Salvington is everywhere in Nebadon. Number 7, the world of the Father. This is the silent sphere of the system. No group of beings is domiciled on it. The great temple of light occupies a central place, but no one can be discerned therein. All beings of all the system worlds are welcome as worshippers. The 7 satellites surrounding the Father's world are variously utilized in the different systems. In Satania, they are now used as the detention spheres for the different systems. And also the internal groups of the Lucifer rebellion. The constellation capital Urantia has no analogous prison worlds. The few seraphim and cherubim who went over to the rebels in the Satania rebellion have been long since confined on these isolation worlds of Jerusalem. As a sojourner on the 7th mansion world, you would have access to the 7th transitional world, the sphere of the universal Father, and also permitted to visit the Satania prison worlds surrounding this planet, whereon are now confined Lucifer and the majority of those personalities who follow him in rebellion against Michael. And this sad spectacle has been observable during these recent ages and will continue to serve as a solemn warning to the Nebadon until the Ancients of Days shall adjudicate the sin of Lucifer and his fallen associates who rejected this salvation proffered by Michael, their universal Father. Very interesting there. The system sovereign. The chief executive of a local system of inhabited worlds is a primary land on a deck son. I'm not going to get that right. Sorry. The system sovereign. In our local university, sovereigns are entrusted with large executive responsibilities, usually personal prerogatives. Not all universities, even in Orvanton, are so organized as to permit the system sovereigns to exercise such unusually wide powers of personal discretion in the direction of system affairs. But in all the history of Nebadon, these untrammeled executives have exhibited disloyalty only 3 times. The Lucifer rebellion in the system of Satania was the last and the most widespread of all. In Satania, even after the disastrous upheaval, absolutely no charges have been made in the technique of system administration. The present system sovereign possesses all the power and exercises all the authority that were invested in his unworthy predecessor, except for certain matters, now under the supervision of the Constellation Fathers, which the Ancients of Days have not yet fully restored to Luna Forge, the successor of Lucifer. The present head of Satania is a gracious and brilliant ruler, and he is a rebellion-tested sovereign. When serving as an assistant system sovereign, Luna Forge was faithful to Michael in an earlier upheaval in the universe of Nebadon. This mighty and brilliant lord of Satania is a tried and tested administrator. At the time of the second system rebellion in Nebadon, when the system sovereign stumbled and fell into darkness, Luna Forge, the first assistant to the erring chief, seized the reins of government and so conducted the affairs of the system that comparatively few personalities were lost either on the headquarter worlds or on the inhabited planets of that unfortunate system. Lana Forge bears the distinction of being the only primary Lanan Adek son in all Nebadon who thus functioned loyally in the service of Michael, and in the very presence of the default of his brothers of superior authority and antecedent rank. Lana Forge will probably not be removed from Jerusalem until all the results of the former folly have been overcome and the products of rebellion removed from Satania. While all the affairs of the isolated worlds of Satania have not been returned to his jurisdiction, Lana Forge discloses great interest in their welfare and he is a frequent visitor on Urantia. As in normal systems, the sovereign presides over the system council of world rulers, the planetary princes, and the resident governors general of the isolated worlds. This planetary council assembles from time to time on the headquarters of the system, when the sons of the god come together. Once a week, every 10 days on Jerusalem, the sovereign holds a conclave with some one group of the various orders of personalities domiciled on the headquarter worlds. These are the charmingly informal hours of Jerusalem, and they are never to be forgotten occasions. On Jerusalem, there exists the utmost fraternity between all the various orders of beings and between each of these groups and the cistern sovereign. These unique assemblages occur on the Sea of Glass, the great gathering field of the system capital. They are purely social and spiritual occasions, nothing pertaining to planetary administration or even to the ascent plan is ever discussed. Ascending mortals come together at these times merely to enjoy themselves and to meet their fellow Jerusalemites. These groups, which are not being entertained by the sovereign at these weekly relaxation meets at their own headquarters, the system government. The chief executive of a local system, the cistern sovereign, is always supported by 2 or 3 Lananadeks, sons, who function at first and second assistants. But at the present time, the system of Satania is administered by a staff of 7 Lananadeks. 1. The system sovereign, Lanaforge, number 2709, of the primary order and successor to the apostate Lucifer. 2. The first assistant sovereign, Manshurota, number 17,841 of the tertiary Lananadeks. He was dispatched to Satania along with Lunaforge. 3. The second assistant sovereign, Sadib, number 271,402 of the tertiary order, Sadib, also came to Satania with Lunaforge. 4. The custodian of the system, Holdant, number 19 of the tertiary corpse, the holder and controller of all interned spirits above the order of mortal existence. Holdant likewise came to Satania with Lunaforge. 5. The system recorder, Vilton, secretary of the Lananadek Ministry of Satania, number 374 of the third order. Vilton was a member of the original Lunaforge group. 6. The bestowal director, Vortant, number 319,847 of the reserves of the secondary Lananadeks, and temporary director of all universe activities transplanted to Jerusalem since Michael's bestowal on Urantia. Vortant has been attached to the staff of Lanaforge for 1900 years of Urantia time. 7. The High Counselor, Hanavard, number 67 of the primary Lananadek sons and a member of the High Corps of Universe Counselors and Co-Ordinators. He functions as acting chairman of the Executive Council of Satania. Hanavard is 12th of this order, so to serve on Jerusalem since the Lucifer Rebellion. These executive group of 7 Lananadeks constitutes the expanded emergency administration made necessary by the emergencies of the Lucifer Rebellion. There are only minor courts of Jerusalem since the system is the unit of administration, not adjudication, but the Lananadek administration is supported the Jerusalem Executive Council, the supreme advisory body of Satania. This council consists of 12 members. Hanavard, the Lananadek chairman, Lanaforge, the system sovereign, Mensur Torah, the first assistant sovereign, the chief of Satania, the Melchizedeks, the acting director of Satania Life Carriers, the chief of the Satania Finalitors, the original Adam of Satania, the supervising head of the material sons, the director of the Satania Sephiric hosts, the chief of the Satania physical controllers, the director of system Urantia power supervisors, the acting director of system midway creatures, the acting head of the corps of ascending mortals. This council periodically chooses 3 members to represent the local system on the Supreme Council at Universe headquarters, but this representation is suspended by rebellion. Satania now has an observer at the headquarters of the local universe, but since the bestowal of Michael, the system has resumed the election of 10 members to the Adenta legislature. The 4 and 20 counselors. Sorry, guys, my allergies are bananas. At the center of 7 angelic residential circles on Jerusalem is located the headquarters of the Urantia Advisory Council. The 4 and 20 counselors, John the Revelator, called them the 4 and 20 elders. Quote, and around about the throne were 4 and 20 seats, and upon the seats I saw 4 and 20 elders sitting, clothed in white remnant. End quote. The throne in the center of this group is the judgment seat of the presiding archangel, the throne of the resurrection roll call of mercy and justice for all Satania. This judgment seat has always been on Jerusalem, but the 24 surrounding seats were placed in position no more than 1900 years ago. Soon after Christ, Michael was elevated to the full sovereignty of Nebdan. These 4 and 20 counselors are his personal agents on Jerusalem, and they have authority to represent the Master Son in all matters concerning roll calls of Satania in many other phases of the scheme of mortal ascension on the isolated worlds of the system. They are designated agents of executing the special requests of Gabriel and the unusual mandates of Michael. These 24 counselors have been recruited from the 8 Urantia races, and the last of this group were assembled at the time of resurrection roll call of Michael, 1900 years ago. The Urantia Advisory Council is made up of the following members. More names I probably will butcher, but here we go. 1, Onagar, the mastermind of the pre-planetary Prince Age, who directed his fellows in the worship of the breath giver. 2, Manson, the great teacher of the post-planetary Prince Age of Urantia, who pointed his fellows to the veneration of the Great Light. Anton, a far distant leader of the Red Man, and the one who directed this race from the worship of many gods to the veneration of the Great Spirit. Orlandoff, a prince of the Blue Man, and their leader in the recognition of the divinity of the Supreme Chief. Korshunta, the oracle of the extinct Orange race, and the leader of this people in the worship of the Great Teacher. Singleton, the first of the Yellow Man, to teach and lead his people in the worship of one truth instead of many. Thousands of years ago, the Yellow Man knew of one God. Fantad, the deliverer of the Green Men from the darkness and their leader in the worship of the one source of life. Orvanyan, the enlightener of the Indigo races and their leader in the one-time service of the God of Gods. Adam, the discredited but rehabilitated planetary father of Urantia, a material son of God who was regulated to the likeness of mortal flesh. Who survived and was subsequently elevated to the position by the decree of Michael. Eve, the mother of the violet race of Urantia, who suffered the penalty of default with her mate and was also rehabilitated with him and assigned to serve with the group of mortal survivors. Enoch, the first of the mortals of Urantia to fuse with the thought adjuster during the mortal life in the flesh. Moses, the emancipator of a remnant of the submerged violent race, and the instigator of the revival of the worship of the universal Father under the name the God of Israel. Elijah, a translated soul of brilliant spiritual achievement during the post-material sun age. Magaventa Melchizedek, the only son of this order to bestow himself upon the Urantia races. While still numbered as a Melchizedek, he has become forever a minister of the Most Highs, eternally assuming the assignment of service as a mortal ascender, having sojourned on Urantia in the likeness of mortal flesh as Salem in the days of Abraham. This Melchizedek has latterly proclaimed vice-urgent planetary prince of Urantia with the headquarters Jerusalem and authority to act in behalf of Michael, who is actually the planetary prince of the world, whereon he experienced his terminal bestowal in human form. Notwithstanding this, Urantia is still supervised by successive resident governors, general members of 4 and 20 councilors. John the Baptist, the forerunner of Michael's mission on Urantia, and in flesh distant cousin of the Son of Man. 1, 2, 3, the first, the leader of the loyal midway creatures in the service of Gabriel at the time of the Caligastia, I'm going to get that, betrayal, elevated to this position by Michael soon after his entrance upon unconditional sovereignty. These selected personalities are exempt from the ascension regime from the time being on Gabriel's request, and we have no idea how long they may serve in this capacity. Seats number 17, 18, 19, and 20 are not permittedly occupied. They are temporarily filled by the unanimous consent of the 16 permanent members, being kept open for later assignment to ascending mortals for the present post-bestowal sun age of Urantia. Numbers 21, 22, 23, and 24 are likely temporarily filled while being held in reserve for the great teachers of another subsequent ages, which undoubtedly will follow the present age. Eras, sorry guys, eras on the magisterial sons and teacher sons, the ages of light and life are to be anticipated on Urantia regardless of unexpected visitations of divine sons, which may or may not occur. There's a lot of truth to that. The material sons. The great divisions of celestial life have their headquarters and immense preserves on Jerusalem, including the various orders of divine sons, high spirits, super angels, angels, and midway creatures. The central abode of this wonderful sector is the chief temple of the material sons. The domain of the atoms is the center of attention to all new arrivals on Jerusalem. It is an enormous area consisting of 1,000 centers, although each family of material sons and daughters live on an estate of its own up to the time of the departure of its members for service on the evolutionary worlds or space, or until their embarkation upon the paradise ascension career. These material sons are the highest type of sex reproducing beings to be found on the training spheres of the evolving universes, and they are really material. Even the planetary Adams and Eves are plainly visible to the mortal races of the inhabited worlds. These material sons are the last in physical link in the chain of personalities extending from divinity and perfection above down to humanity and material existence below. These sons provide the inhabited worlds with a mutually contractible intermediary between the invisible planetary prince and the material creatures of the realms. At the last millennia registration on Salvington, there were of a record in Nebadon 161,432,840 material sons and daughters of citizenship status on local system capitals. The number of material sons varies in the different systems, and their number is being constantly increased by natural reproduction and the exercise of their reproductive functions They are not guided wholly by the personal desires of contracting personalities, but also by the higher governing bodies and adversary councils. These material sons and daughters are the permanent inhabitants of Jerusalem and its associated worlds. They occupy vast estates on Jerusalem and participate liberally in the local management of the capital sphere, administering practically all routine affairs with the assistance of the midwayers and ascenders. On Jerusalem, these producing sons are permitted to experiment with the ideals of self-governing after the manner of the Melchizedeks, and they are achieving a very high type of society. The high orders of sonship reserve the veto functions of the realm, but in nearly every respect, the Jerusalem Adamites govern themselves by universal suffrage and representative government. Sometime they hope to be granted virtually complete autonomy. The character of the service of the material sons is largely determined by their ages. While they are not eligible for admission to the Melchizedek University of Salvington, being material and ordinarily limited to certain planets, nevertheless, the Melchizedeks maintain strong faculties of teachers on the headquarters of each system for the instruction of the younger generations of material sons. The educational and spiritual training systems provided for the development of the younger material sons and daughters of the same acum of perfection in scope, technique, and practicability. Adamic training of ascenders. The material sons and daughters, together with their children, present an engaging spectacle which never fails to arouse the curiosity and intrigue at the attention of all ascending mortals. They are so similar to your own material sex races that you both find much of common interest to engage your thoughts and occupy your seasons of fraternal contact. Mortal survivors spend much of their leisure on the system capital, observing, studying the life habitants and conduct of these superior semi-physical sex creatures. For these citizens of Jerusalem are the immediate sponsors and mentors of the mortal survivors from the time they obtain citizenship on the headquarters world until they take leave for Urantia. On the seven mansion worlds, ascending mortals are afforded ample opportunities for compensating any and all experimental deprivation suffered on their worlds of origin, whether due to inheritance, environment, or unfortunate premature termination of the career in the flesh. This is in every sense true exception in the mortal sex life and its attendant adjustments. Thousands of mortals reach the mansion worlds without having benefited, particularly from the disciplines derived from fairly average sex relations on their native spheres. The mansion world experience can provide little opportunity for compensating these very personal deprivations. Sex experience is a physical sense, is past for these ascenders, but in close association with the material sons and daughters, both individually and as members of their families. These sex-deficient mortals are enabled to compensate the social, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual aspects of their deficiency. Thus are all those humans who circumstances or bad judgment deprived of the benefits of advantageous sex association on the evolutionary worlds. Here on the system capitals afforded full opportunity to acquire these essential mortal experiences in close and loving association with supernal Adamic sex creatures of permanent residence on the system capitals. There's a big question. I have a lot of questions about that. A lot. And many of you probably do too. Weird. No surviving mortal, midwayer, or seraphim may ascend to paradise, obtain the Father, and be mustered into the corpse of the finality without having passed through that sublime experience of achieving parental relationship to the evolving child of the worlds, or some other experience analogous and equivalent thereto. The relationship of child and parent is fundamental to the essential concept of the universal father and his universal children. Therefore, does an experience become indispensable to the experiential training of all ascenders. The ascending midway creatures and the evolutionary seraphim must pass through the parenthood experience in association with the material sons and daughters of a system headquarters. Thus do such non-reproducing ascenders obtain the experience of parenthood by assisting the Jerusalem Adams and Eves in rearing and training their progeny. All mortal survivors who have not experienced parenthood on the evolutionary worlds must also obtain this necessary training while sojourning the homes of Jerusalem material sons and parental associates of these superb fathers and mothers. This is true except insofar as such mortals have been able to compensate their deficiencies on the system nursery located in the first transitional cultural world of Jerusalem. Pause. Now, my question to this, my Urantia scholars, is if we reincarnate, I am sure my blood lineage, I had children in other lives. If I'm stuck in this vehicle and I am ascending to wherever we're all going, because we're all going to different spots, if this is truth, does that apply to me? Because I didn't have a kid in this lifetime. Although I was before I got, that's right, America. I got illegally canned for not doing that. I worked with children. So I don't know. It's an interesting query. Anywho, this probation nursery of Satania is maintained by certain Urantia personalities on the finaliter worlds, one half of the planet being devoted to this work of children rearing. Here are received and reassembled certain children of surviving mortals, such as those offspring who perish on the evolutionary worlds before acquiring spiritual status as individuals. The ascension of either of its natural parents ensures that such a mortal child of the realms will be accorded repersonalization on the system finale of the planet, and there will be permitted a demonstrated by subsequent free will choice whether or not to elects their, oh gosh, sorry guys, I hate this, to follow the paternal path of mortal ascension. Children here appear as on the nativity world except for the absence of sex differentiation. There is no reproduction of mortal kind after the life experience on the inhabited worlds. Mansion world students who have one or more children in the probationary nursery on the finality world who are deficient in essential parental experience may apply for Melchizedek permit, which will affect their temporary transfer from ascended duties on the mansion worlds to the finality world, where they are granted opportunity to function as associate parents to their own and other children. The service of parental ministry may be later accredited on Jerusalem as fulfillment of one half of the training which such ascenders are required to undergo in the families of the material sons and daughters. The probation nursery itself is supervised by 1,000 couples of material sons and daughters, volunteers from the Jerusalem colony of their order. They are immediately assisted by about equal number of volunteer Midsonite parental groups who stop off here to render the service on their way from the Mezzanite world of Satania to the unrevealed destiny on their special worlds of reservation among the finaliter spheres of Salvington. The Melchizedek schools. The Melchizedeks are the directors of that large corps of instructors, partially spiritualized will creatures, and others who function so acceptably on Jerusalem and its associated worlds, but especially on the seven mansion worlds. These are the detention planets where those mortals who fail to achieve fusion with their indwelling adjusters during the life in the flesh are rehabilitated in transient form to receive further help and enjoy extended opportunity for continuing their strivings for spiritual attainment. Those very efforts which were prematurely interrupted by death, or if for any reason of hereditary handicap, unfavorable environment, or a conspiracy of circumstances, the soul attainment was not completed. No matter what the reasons, all who are true of purpose and worthy in spirit find themselves present on the continuing planets, where they must learn to master the essentials of eternal career, to possess themselves of traits which they could not or did not acquire during the lifetime on the flesh. The brilliant evening stars in their unnamed coordinates frequently serve as teachers in the various educational enterprises of the universe, including those sponsored by the Melchizedeks. Also, do the Trinity teachers' sons collaborate, and they will impart the touches of paradise perfection to those program training schools. But all these activities are not exclusively devoted to the advancement of ascending mortals. Many are equally occupied with the progressive training of the native spirit personalities of Nebadon. The Melchizedek sons conduct upward of 30 different educational centers on Jerusalem. These training schools begin with the College of Self-Evaluation and end with the schools of Jerusalem citizenship, wherein the material sons and daughters join with the Melchizedeks and or others in their supreme effort to qualify the mortal supervisors for the assumption of the high responsibilities of representative government. The entire universe is organized and administered on the representative plan. Representative government is a divine ideal of self-government among non-perfect beings. Every 100 years of universe time, each system selects its 10 representatives to sit in the constellation legislature. They are chosen by the Jerusalem Council of 1,000, an elective body charged with the duty of representing the system groups in all such delegated or appointive matters. All representatives or other delegates are selected by the Council of 1,000 electors, and they must be graduates of the highest school of the Melchizedek College of Administration, as also are all of those who constitute this group of 1,000 electors. The school is fostered by the Melchizedeks, laterally assisted by the finalitors. There are many elective bodies on Jerusalem, and they are voted into authority from time to time by 3 orders of citizenship: the material sons and daughters, the seraphim and their associates, including midway creatures and the ascending mortals. To receive nomination for the representative honor of candidate must have gained requisite recognition from the Melchizedek schools of administration. Suffrage is universal in Jerusalem among these 3 groups of citizenship, but the vote is differentially passed in accordance with the recognized and duly registered personal possession of Urantia wisdom. The vote cast at a Jerusalem election by any one personality has a value ranging from 1 to 1,000. Jerusalem citizens are thus classified in accordance with their moda achievement. From time to time, sorry guys, my teeth almost flew out. From time to time, Jerusalem citizens present themselves to be in the Melchizedek examiners, who certified to their attainment of Urantia wisdom. Then they go before the examining corpse of the brilliant evening star or their designates, who ascertain the degree of spirit insight. Next, they appear in the presence of the 24 counselors and their associates, who pass upon their status of experimental attainment of socialization. These 3 factors are then carried to the citizenship registers of representative government, who quickly compute the moda status and assign suffrage qualifications in accordance therewith. Under the supervision of the Melchizedeks, the ascending mortals, especially those who are tardy in their personality unification on the new Urantia levels, are taken in hand by the material sons and are given intensive training designed to rectify such deficiencies. No ascending mortal leaves this system headquarters for the more extensive and varied socialization career of the constellation until these material sons certify to the achievement of morta personality of individual combining the complete immortal existence in experimental association with the budding Urantia career, both being duly blended by the spiritual over control of the thought adjuster. Whew. Presented by a Melchizedek of temporary assignment on Urantia. And that concludes paper 45. Next time, the local system headquarters, I will read. So I want to thank everybody for dealing with that. Almost coughing, losing teeth, and everything else. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And to everybody who is in the path of the storms that have been happening, my prayers, light, protection, and shielding are going out to all of you. I want to thank everybody who has toughed out my ride with me. And I want to thank everybody for the support and the love. Really do appreciate it. Sending each and every one of you love and light. Please take care of yourselves. There are storms incoming Tuesday. I'm in a really high risk area. So going to try to get more videos out between tonight and tomorrow. Until then, please be safe. I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.